Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Ox Talks. It is Thursday, November 30th, 2023. Hope you're all enjoying your day today and you are being productive. I appreciate you watching these videos, subscribing to the channel, liking the videos, hitting the thumbs up button, and most importantly, sharing this material with your family, your friends, your coworkers, your colleagues, especially those that are pushing back right now or are not as willing to see what's really happening. Keep up that fight. Please stay the course. We need this stuff to be spread around as much as possible. A lot is happening every single day. Events are unfolding. Unfortunately, they're not really going in the right direction. I wanted to give you a quick update from yesterday's wire fraud story with my friend. He received an email late yesterday in the day after he had sent an email to the CEO of Bank of America, and evidently there has been a caseworker assigned to the investigation, and the ball hopefully is rolling in the right direction. I did have a discussion with another friend of mine today who is a vice president of a local regional bank here, and I ran the scenario by him. He tells me that wire transfers are under the same regulation per se, and I haven't verified this, but under the same regulation per se as credit card transactions. Because my comment to him when he gave me his analysis, I said, well, it's no different than a credit card chargeback then. Where a credit card holder receives goods or services and then claims that there's something wrong with the service or something wrong with the merchandise. And I said, I always understood that a wire transfer, which was a much more secure and final form of payment, especially when you're talking about higher value or higher ticket items. And he had texted me and said, that's correct. It falls under the same regulation. However, with a wire, it's so much harder to get people their money back when the money is gone. Most of the time, it's the other way around. Usually, the sender of the wire is the one that is getting defrauded. In this case, and it's super rare, it seems like the receiver, which is in this case my friend, my client, was defrauded by the sender, because he bought watches, and when he knew there was a tracking number and verified that item had been released at this time, it's when he went to the bank probably and claimed fraud. He says, I've never seen that happen until now. And obviously, we're speculating as to what happened because both Chase Bank and Bank of America are keeping my friend totally in the dark about the status of this so-called investigation. There was definitely no fraud on our end, but if it was a buyer fraud on the other side, it is something to be very, very, very careful about if you are conducting business using wire transfers. For example, look, you buy a house. As soon as that wire transfer is made and the buyer proceeds are wired to the seller, guess what happens? That deed is recorded. That property transfer is completed upon the payment of funds. So what happens? I'm throwing out, of course, a wild scenario, but it's certainly not out of the question given what I'm seeing unfold with this scenario. A few days later, title's recorded in the new buyer's name, and the new buyer claims that they didn't get something they thought they were getting, that the property wasn't in the condition they thought it should have been in or was represented to be in, and they turn around and report the wire as a fraud. Again, these things are now open for abuse, people or folks, and that's what I'm trying to get across here. Something that I never knew could happen. My friend, the vice president of this bank, has never seen it happen this way around. Anyway, I'll keep you all posted on how this turns out. Hopefully, it is a good outcome. It's a lot of money. I want to address this, though, as we compare it to or deal with the area of credit card chargebacks. This is as important a item for you to be aware of. If you are a business owner, if you take credit cards as part of your daily business, I know, for example, I will sometimes take credit cards for legal fees, for payment of retainers. I'm going to share with you a couple of nightmare scenarios, which makes me very wary to do it now. But certainly for those of you that accept credit cards and have merchant accounts, the rules are, depending on the credit card company, the rules can be very, very, very card holder friendly. Meaning you can render a service, you can provide you can sell merchandise or a good to somebody. They can turn around and they can report it as a fraudulent transaction or something to that extent, claim they didn't get the benefit of the service, and all of a sudden that money gets sucked back out of your bank account. And it's almost like guilty until proven innocent. The merchant company will take this money back out, and then you have to submit all the paperwork to document the transaction to show that it was all on the up and up, and the service was provided, or the merchandise was given or shipped or whatever, and it can leave you in a real lurch if it's a substantial amount of money. Some credit card companies, like I know American Express, is much more protective of the cardholder providing the service or the merchandise. Whereas in my experience, Visa and MasterCard are more protective of the cardholder asking for the chargeback. So do your own due diligence on that. I'm not giving you legal advice or financial advice, but the credit card chargeback fraud is out of control. So in the last couple of months, I've experienced this with a former client on a for me, not a large scale level, but nonetheless, this client was a referral. She's a doctor and needed some business representation on a couple different matters. She engaged my firm. Documents were signed, retainers were paid via credit card, services were rendered, billing statements were kept, itemized, all the retainers were billed out. And at the end of the representation, there was actually a credit balance owed to the client, of which I refunded to this client via a check. And the client cashed the check. About a month later, I'm out of the country. This was the last summer. I'm out of the country in Costa Rica, and I get an alert from my bank that about $8,000 had been sucked back out of my operating account based upon this former client making a chargeback claim. And all I got was a one line saying that the cardholder says services were never provided, and that she never authorized, the client never authorized the charges. Of course, I had signed charge authorizations, I had itemized billing statements, I had records of the refund of the unused portion of the retainer. And so when I got back in the country, I had to put all this stuff together, send it to my merchant processor, and of course, once they saw all this, they realized that the claim on her side was actually not in good faith. If anything, it was fraud on her side, on the client's side, former client's side, and they put the money back in my account. But it took me, several hours to compile all this. In the meantime, when I was on vacation, I had to fill an $8,000 shortfall in an account that was created by this chargeback. So, it can, depending on the type of business you run and the amount of the transaction, it can put you in a real difficult position. Years ago, I had a much more substantial issue come up with a credit card transaction. I'll share it. I learned the hard way. To this day, I don't know what I could have done differently to prevent it. But I got burned, and this one was for about $20,000. Actually, it was probably more than that, because I'll share the story. So an existing client owed some money, was going to replenish a retainer with my firm on an active litigation case. He came in with someone who at the time he was with, or a partner, and she was going to, in this case, she was going to pay to replenish the retainer on his account. I prepared and had her sign a written authorization confirming that it's her account. I took a copy of the credit card front and back, put all those things in place to safeguard this. I ran and processed the payment. In this case, it was $20,000 payment. About maybe 6 months later, the client calls me that the money went into the client trust account on the client's for the client's benefit as a credit. About, like I said, 2 months later, 6 weeks later, the client calls and says, look, the case is kind of in a slow period right now. I need those funds that are on retainer with you. Issue me a check back. Leave some on credit, but I need about $17,000 back of those retainer funds. Well, guess what? They were the client funds. So I issued it was about $17,000 check to the client on those funds. Well, guess what? A few months after that, I get a $20,000. In this case, I'm flying to Canada to take depositions on another case, and I get notice that there was a $20,000 chargeback to my operating account for this transaction. And in this case, what it was the card holder. It was not her account. She had a credit card, my client's friend. She had a credit card in her name, which I took a copy front and back, but it was her ex-fiance or ex-husband's account, and he made the claim and said that he didn't authorize the transfer or the charge, and he reported it as a fraudulent charge. I discussed the matter with my merchant company, provided everything. I talked with the other card holder, and in that case, the merchant and the credit card company did not and would not. They refused to put the money back into my account. I believe in that case, it was a Visa card or a MasterCard. So it was $20,000 that got taken out of my account. Plus, I had issued a check to the client. So obviously, I pursued the client on that. It didn't all end well, put it this way. I won't go into details, but boy, we live in a brutal world when it comes to finances. It's extremely cutthroat. This credit card fraud and credit card chargeback. Are there some legitimate chargeback issues? Absolutely. But it's also something that's exploited routinely, and I've had it happen to me now on 2 occasions, and I'm fairly astute. I've seen all the tricks. I hadn't seen that one. And so any of us can become a victim to this. So I hope that the wire fraud issue was enlightening. I see that people did click on it, and hopefully it'll spread the word on that to protect yourselves the best you can. I hope that my bit today on the chargeback credit card issues is helpful. It's not a fun topic to discuss, but it's reality, ladies and gentlemen. So please just heed the warning, do the best you can to insulate yourself. I think in hindsight, the only thing I could have done differently as I researched it after was I could have called the credit card company and had the authorization run over the phone. I believe on that $20,000 matter, it would have potentially flagged the issue, and I would have avoided that catastrophe. As it turned out, I probably got about $37,000 stolen from me because I got hit for the 20 plus I refunded 17. So lesson hard learned. I was talking to JB last night and sharing the story with him. He said, "Well, everyone's just going to want to, you have to bank with money from under your mattress. There's no other alternatives these days if you want to avoid being defrauded." I almost agree with him on that. So with that being said, I'll leave it there. It's about 13 and a half minutes today. I'm going to get my exercise in about an hour. Please do the same. Get your walking, get your steps in, sit-ups, push-ups, drink the water, do all those good things to make your body stronger, reduce your stress levels, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.